Well, the Browns did the damn thing. They traded for a kicker, Dustin Hopkins from the Chargers, and they cut Cade York. So we are live here on the Cleveland Browns Report, breaking down the big two moves that were made right before roster cutdown day. I, for one, did not see this one coming, just because I thought Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were going to want to give Cade York at least one more chance in the regular season. But ultimately, Andrew Berry, I wouldn't say came to his senses, but maybe he had a nightmare last night where he dreamt of Cade York missing a 42-yarder in Week 1 to lose to the Bengals. And he goes, you know what? We cannot roll the dice on this season. We are all chips in. We are not going to let some kicker who went 50% at field goal range in the preseason derail the 2023 year. Let's go out and let's go get a proven kicker like Dustin Hopkins, who sure might not be a long-term franchise kicker that they thought Cade York was going to be, but at least that gives you the best opportunity to maximize your potential in 2023. So Cade York is done in Cleveland for now. I don't think the door is completely shut on him actually being added to the practice squad, oddly enough, but Dustin Hopkins should be and will be your Week 1 kicker. Adam Schefter was the first one to kind of tweet out the trade details of the Browns trading a 2025 7th-round pick to the Chargers. Dustin Hopkins, who was a longtime Washington Redskin, and then I think football team too, but never Commander. He was let go by the Washington whatever, and then went over to L.A. He battled some injuries, so they added Dicker the kicker, Cameron Dicker, who oddly enough, for anyone that's been subscribed for a while, when we talked about kicker draft targets in 2022, I wanted Cameron Dicker over Cade York. And then I walked that back after the Cade York 58-yard walk-off, essentially, against the Panthers. But now I'm back to my stance of, we should have listened to me from the start. Kicker the Dicker, you just can't beat a name like that. I don't care about any of his stats or if he was really just a better punter. But the Chargers roll with Cameron Dicker, and the Browns get their sloppy seconds, and that is Dustin Hopkins. So we know that this spelled doom for Cade York, and just like 2 minutes later, Jordan Schultz tweeted out the Browns cut Cade York. It will be official tomorrow when they make all their roster waves and whatnot. I doubt a team use a waiver claim on Cade York, so after 24 hours, he will clear waivers. He will be a free agent. He will be free to sign wherever he likes. I don't think a team is going to be foolish enough to offer him a spot on their 53-man roster after what they saw in the preseason. But he does have an insanely talented and super long leg that can kick 58-plus yard field goals. So maybe another team will fall in love with him like the Browns did during the draft process. Because if there is one thing about Cade York, he is a practice legend. He made 99% of his kicks in training camp and in practice. It just never carried over to the game. So with the Browns adding Dustin Hopkins and moving on from Cade York, I think we can all sleep a lot better going into the regular season. But what do you guys think? Is the Browns roster complete? Do they have the best 53-man roster possible going into this season? I don't think there is a single spot that leaves me a bit queasy anymore. Sure, you could maybe have a better backup running back for Nick Chubb, but that's all it is, a backup, right? Maybe you could have an extra speed guy now that you've lost Jakeem Grant for special teams. But at the end of the day, this roster, it goes pound for pound, toe-to-toe with the best in the league. And again, if this was not the Cleveland Browns, but it was the New England Browns or the Dallas Browns or the LA Browns, how different people would be talking about this team. But I think this roster is as good as they come. It might not be the best in the league, but it is definitely one of the best to get you in contention to, I think, do some damage in the postseason. I'm going to give some shout-outs here. We've got nearly 500 people tuning in for what I don't want to call like a Mardi Gras celebration because, one, there's the human element of we all wanted Cade York to work out. We all wanted Cade York to succeed because that would have been the next Phil Dawson of sorts, right? The next franchise kicker for a decade plus, if you will, and a kicker that could have been a weapon, right? A kicker that other teams know, hey, the Browns have a kicker that we don't have to keep him like getting towards 60 yards, that's still Cade York range. That's the ultimate, ace of diamonds in your sleeve, because teams know that the Browns' field goal range with Cade York is like an extra 5 yards back, and so the defense has to respect that when the Browns are on some 2-minute drill trying to get into field goal range. With Dustin Hopkins, his career long is 56 yards. I mean, Cade York is 58, for example. So it's not as big of a leg, but it's a much more accurate one. And for the Browns in 2023, they weren't about to mess around and do a rebuild and go, well, let's see if Cade York can, kick his way out of this funk. We're not going to go on a big run anyway this year. And maybe we have our new preseason, or special teams legend like the Ravens have with Justin Tucker. Could we get our very own Justin Tucker? Instead, the Browns decide, let's put the driver back in the bag and let's just take out our best iron and hit it down the middle of the fairway. It might not be the longest drive, but we're not going to be in the rough. We're not going to be in the trees or in the bunker. We're going to put ourselves in a good spot to always have a reliable and accountable kicker who has a field goal percentage through his NFL career just shy of 85%. That's 9 points better than what Cade York did last season in his rookie year. We've got a super chat coming in. If anyone wants to super chat, by all means, feel free to knock yourself out. You will get on screen like Joshua Miller, who, Josh, I'm sorry, dude. Cade York jersey, see ya. For those of you that don't know the backstory here, Josh and I, we were ecstatic, like all of Cleveland was, after the Cade York 58-yard winner against the Panthers. And I may or may not have convinced Josh to go out and get a Cade York jersey, which now belongs to the rafters of all-time random jerseys to wear at a Darty that people are going to gawk over. Josh, I'm sorry, man. It was one hell of a ride. But you got a Martin Emerson jersey now that I can see in your profile picture. And that's going to do a lot better going forward than the Cade York jersey did. But Josh, pour one out for the Cade York jersey. Let's show some Dustin Hopkins stats, though, throughout his NFL career. Like I said, 190 for 224. What's the math? 84.8 field goal percentage. I like to round up. Let's call it 85 field goal percentage. His career long is 56 yards. The reason why the Chargers kind of went a different direction is Cameron Dicker, young, maybe a potential long-term kicker. Plus, if we know anything about the Chargers, they have never had consistency at the kicker position. They hope to find that in Cameron Dicker for the long term. Plus, Hopkins did deal with some injuries in LA. He was there for 2 seasons-ish. Yeah, 2 years, and he played all of 16 games. So Dustin Hopkins had some injury issues over the last 2 years. And ultimately, LA decides, let's just reset and go young. I don't knock him for that. But for the Browns, it's kind of perfect because they don't need Dustin Hopkins to be their kicker for the next 10 years, right? They need Dustin Hopkins to be a reliable kicker for 2023 and not hold this team back. They don't need him to be a Pro Bowl kicker. They just need him to make exactly that, 85% of his kicks. And this team and their offense and defense should take care of the rest. Cade York, it was a brutal preseason. Technically, he goes down 4 of 8. It was really like 4 of 10 because he had the roughing the kicker call, but that was a missed kick anyway. And then there was the kick, I think it was the Hall of Fame game, where a penalty on the defense, out of lining up over the center. So they, waved off the missed field goal, and they gave him a second shot, and he missed that one again anyway. So in my book, for those of you keeping at score at home, he went 4 for 10. It is tough to hold on to a job in the NFL, kicking 4 of 10 through 4 preseason football games. But again, the Browns gave him chance after chance after chance because he went perfect in practice. So they just hoped that he would kick his way out of this funk, and we'd all look back and have a good laugh and celebrate hosting the Lombardi Trophy, thinking, remember when Cade York struggled in the Hall of Fame game? Oh, well, who cares now? He went 87% in the regular season, and he made some clutch game-winning kicks. Instead, that is not to be. Some super chats we got rolling in. This one coming in from Daniel Ellis. I knew the Browns would get D-Hop called it. Yeah, I love this by Daniel. What a rebrand. We all knew the Browns were going to somehow get D-Hop. If you thought DeAndre Hopkins, shame on you for all the whole time. It was Dustin Hopkins. So just a different D-Hop, but at the end of the day, the Browns do get a D-Hop. And imagine if I told you back in June, the Browns get D-Hop. Oh, what a ballet of emotions you go through when you find out it's the knockoff D-Hop and it's Dustin Hopkins instead. $5 super chat coming in from Jonathan Mann. Wishing all former Browns players well in their careers. That said, happy to move on from York. Backup speedster for Godwin or Marquise Goodwin / kick returner. Watkins making the 53. Jalen Darden, maybe? Again, the Browns found Jalen Darden off the waiver wire last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they take that same approach this year, and the Browns' backup speedster is not on their roster currently. Now, who that could be, your guess is as good as mine. I do not know the Cardinals wide receiver 6 or the Seahawks, right? So you have to wait and see which waiver wire cuts come across, but I do believe the Browns could be in the market of adding another speedster. As for Austin Watkins making the 53, I sure hope so. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment. Maybe I bought too much into some preseason hype, but the guy looked legit. The guy looked like an NFL wide receiver, and if I'm thinking ahead here, DPJ's in a contract year. Amari Cooper's got a $23 million cap hit in 2024. Might not be a bad idea to kind of stash Austin Watkins away for this season. And maybe next year he kind of comes into camp as that wide receiver 4/5 that we kind of pencil in to our 53-man roster. Jonathan, thanks so much for the super chat. We got another one coming in from Tim Green. What's up, Matt? Hope no one is mad at me for calling the miss Saturday. Just keeping it real. We're all fans here. Go Browns. Tim, no one's mad at you. I mean, like Tim predicted literally 20 minutes before the 43-yard miss that Cade York would miss a 42-yard winner. And I told Tim, you're not wrong, but can you not say it out loud? Because no one likes the guy that ends up being right about a really sad prediction. But at the end of the day, Tim, maybe that was a good prediction, right? I know Andrew Barry watches all of the streams, and he respects your thoughts, and he's like, damn, if Tim Green's calling this out 20 minutes in advance, let me get on the phone with the Chargers, and let's see what it would cost to get Dustin Hopkins. Oh, a 2025 5th, 7th-round pick? That's like college football, scheduling a game 10 years in advance. Who even thinks about the 2025 draft? That's so far away. Yeah, 7th-rounder, light it on fire. Give me Dustin Hopkins. Give me the Walmart Kirkland D-Hop. But here's my question for everyone before we really dive into this story. Will the Browns regret giving up on Cade York? Daniel Carlson was the kicker in Minnesota when Kevin Stefanski was there in 2018. He went 1 for 4 against the Packers in week 1. The Vikings cut him, and everyone in Minnesota agrees it was a mistake. Mistakes happen. GMs make mistakes. And moving on from a really talented kicker, which I don't want to use the term talented too loosely, right? Everyone in the NFL is talented, but there are limits, right? There are quarterbacks who can throw 60 yards and quarterbacks who can't. There are kickers who can kick 60 yards and kickers who can't. Cade York is in that very select few that can be accurate from 60 yards, right? Everyone can kick 60 yards on a kickoff with a big run-up, but can everyone do a 5-step, run and kick it off from 63 yards on a field goal attempt? No. So that's why the Browns were holding out hope, but at the end of the day, they learned, hey, Anthony Schwartz was a speed demon, right? He was a track star. Couldn't catch a football. So what good was that? Cade York might be able to kick it from 65 yards, but what good is it if it's not online? So will the Browns end up regret giving up on Cade York? I am seeing a couple of yeses. That surprises me. David says yes. Carm says yes. William, he has the boot, but the accuracy is not there. That's why I'm going to float out this idea. What if they just add him to the practice squad? Dustin Hopkins has dealt with injuries lately. Maybe he needs a year on the practice squad and not the pressure of 2023 to try and get his mindset ready, whatever that looks like. And maybe in 2024, they give it another chance, right? They go into the training camp in 2024 with a kicking battle between Cade York and whoever it is. Is that the worst idea in the world? I don't think it's all that bad. I don't think it's undoable to say, how about you stick it on the practice squad this year? It's not going to work out right now, right? We are an all-in team. We need to win now. We cannot go in with any sort of risk. And this is a huge risk. Maybe they give it another shot in 2024 because they are drooling over that leg, which is a little weird to say, but you don't often pick kickers in the 4th round. It was the highest a kicker had gone in the draft at the time since 2016 when the Bucs took that Florida State kicker, Roberto Aguero, whatever, who only lasted 1 year as well. Then the Niners this past year took Jake Moody out of Michigan, the team up north, in the 3rd round. I think drafting a kicker rounds 1 through 4, with the exception of Sebastian Janikowski, is just cursed. And if Tom Downey is watching this right now, you were right. I was wrong. And so is the Browns Twitter, who tweeted out like a year ago today, I think, or almost a year ago today, this is why you draft a kicker. Oh no. Oh no. That did not age well. $5 super from Ween. What's going on, dude? I think Deshaun Watson is going to have a 26 touchdown to 9 interception ratio because he is still shaking off a bit of rust and will have 4 rushing touchdowns with 450 rushing yards. So a complete curveball here as we now talk about Deshaun Watson. But 26 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, that would be a pretty above average season. That would have him like top 5, I would say, if those are the numbers in top 5 in QBR, but definitely have him, in contention with one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I'll put that down as a top 10 QB stat line, 26 TDs to 9 interceptions. Tossing 4 rushing scores, 30 altogether. Yeah, that'd be a really good year, a really solid year for Deshaun Watson after last year. So we are now going to break down this trade. Really quickly, though, never miss a trade. Subscribe to the channel. We can push this across right now. We have nearly 750 people watching, only 86 likes, 90 likes. Make sure to like the video. It helps boost the channel. It brings more eyeballs here, and we can grow the channel. But for all 700 people watching right now, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do so. Lock yourself in for the best Cleveland Browns YouTube content out there. And if you don't want to take my word for it, I don't blame you. I'm a little bit biased if I do say so myself. But if you are subscribed, type me in the comment section right now. That way, everyone who's kind of on the fence about joining, they can see they are joining a big Cleveland Browns YouTube community. So Peter R., thank God we got rid of York. Peter, I can't wait for week 2 against the Steelers. We got a whole bunch of me's coming in the chat right now. So let's jump into it. We've got Jake Chipper, one of the newer guys here at Chat Sports behind the cameras, doing a great job. And then on her first day, Allie Barefoot, she is our 3rd man of the crew today. She's going to help out as well. So we got 2 little ducklings kind of making their way along the Chat Sports stream, but we're going to have a lot of fun. Let's break down the big-time news coming out of Berea. The Browns trade for Dustin Hopkins, the other D-Hop, as Mr. Ellis put it, and they move on from Cade York. Yep. Bingo. Okay. Actually, don't worry about the cold open. Just it will make it too tough on the cut. So let's just toss this into the script at some point. The sub-read. That make sense? Yeah, just start the intro. Okay. So here we go. Joshua Miller, all the super chats we get, we're going to get to in about 10 to 15 minutes. So feel free to get them in there, but we will hit them right after we get through all the news and whatnot. Let me help you out here. Just going to put this like right here. Make sense? Okay, here we go. Let's break down the news of the trade and the release right now. We've got a trade to break down. The Browns got Dustin Hopkins, the other D-Hop, the Walmart version, if you will, and they moved on from Cade York, a move that I think we all, I shouldn't say for sure saw coming, but we're probably hoping to see coming because Cade York gave us very little inspiration in the preseason to believe there would be a turnaround. So we're going to run through all the news, the details, and whatnot, and then I'm going to give you my takes and analysis on the moves. But Adam Schefter with the trade details. The Browns traded a 2025 7th-round pick to the Chargers for kicker Dustin Hopkins, who was in a kicking battle with Cameron Dicker. Oddly enough, if anyone remembers or has been subscribed long enough, I wanted the Browns to draft Cameron Dicker over Cade York. And then I thought, no, I was wrong. Cade York, 58-yarder against the Panthers. And here we are a year later. So never give up on your bad takes. And then Jordan Schultz, following that up 2 minutes later, the Browns are cutting kicker Cade York. Now, Cade York has been in the NFL for less than 4 years, so he's not an outright release or something like that. I guess the more proper term would be the Browns are waiving Cade York. He will go through the waiver wire period. If a team claims him and his contract, which has 3 years left on it and not a lot of money, go to that team. If no team claims Cade York, he is then a free agent. He can sign with any team. He can join any practice squad. I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns bring him on their practice squad. I'll explain that later on. But never miss a trade when you are subscribed to the Cleveland Browns Report. We're going to run through all the stats on Dustin Hopkins and Cade York. But really quickly, make sure you subscribe. That way, when breaking news happens, you don't stay in the dark. Now, let's get right into it with the Dustin Hopkins stats that everyone wants to see. Who is Dustin Hopkins? Well, he is a longtime NFL vet, former 6th-round draft pick by the Washington Redskins at the time. In his career, he is essentially an 85% field goal percentage kicker. That's exactly what the Browns need. The way I put it is, Cade York is a driver that you just cannot trust. Maybe it goes right down the middle and it's the longest drive of the foursome, or maybe you are driving your cart through the swamps and the marshlands in the rough trying to find your ball. Whereas Dustin Hopkins is the mature choice, right? Putting the driver away, taking out your best iron, and just smacking it down the middle of the fairway, knowing you're going to have a good shot. It won't be the longest of the bunch. He doesn't have an insane leg. His career long is 56 yards, but he is an accurate, reliable kicker, which for a team that is all in on this season needs to have. They cannot roll the dice on a young guy like Cade York, who has been wildly inconsistent so far in training camp and preseason. Some more background here on Dustin Hopkins. He lost the battle, like I mentioned, with Cameron Dicker. He was with the Chargers for 2 seasons. He battled injuries, and ultimately that's what sort of led to his demise because they added Cameron Dicker. Dicker was an incredibly accurate and reliable kicker last year for the Chargers, so I don't fault LA for going, hey, let's try and find a long-term answer at kicker, something we have really struggled with as a franchise, as they have chargered a lot of Chargers games. So if you're a Chargers fan watching, enjoy Cameron Dicker. Dicker the kicker is an all-time name too. But Dustin Hopkins was with the Washington Redskins and then football team for quite some time, 2015 to 2021. He had some good years there. I don't think any, Washington fans have a lot of bad things to say about Dustin Hopkins. He's not a Justin Tucker where he doesn't have an insanely talented leg like Cade York does that can make 58-plus yarders. But I can tell you this much, he is accurate between 40 and 49 yards. And that's what the Browns need, right? There might be a game, and I hate myself for even putting this out in the universe, where they asked Dustin Hopkins to make a game-tying 59, 58-yarder. And if he doesn't make it, we're all going to be thinking, oh, man, if only Cade York was here for this moment. But when that moment comes, for every one of those moments this season, there will be 10 moments of Dustin Hopkins making a 43-yarder that we don't have to sweat through. And for that reason, the Browns are making the right decision, right? And I also want to plug for a place like Cleveland that is notoriously tough to kick because it's right by the lake. Dustin Hopkins, career field goal percentage when kicking outdoors, it's essentially the same as his entire field goal percentage in his career, 84.2%. So he is not swayed by kicking outdoors versus kicking indoors. But let me know, is the Browns roster complete? C for complete, I for incomplete. Maybe they add a Jakeem Grant replacement for special teams. But if we look overall, 22 starters, or I guess kind of 25 starters with kicker, punter, and long snapper, I don't know if there is a guy on the market who is better than any one of the starters for the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, I don't think there is a waiver wire claim they need to make to find a new defensive tackle, right? Sure, you can maybe add another running back, but you did that with Pierre Strong already. So I feel very confident that this 53-man roster for the Browns is the best roster available at Andrew Berry's fingertips going into the 2023 season. I would say C for complete. Looking over the trade details one more time, Hopkins for a 7th rounder. I could care less about 7th-round picks. I've always said if I was an NFL GM, I would never go into a draft with a 7th rounder. Sure, you get your once-in-a-blue moon, Julian Edelmans of the world, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's always a couple of exceptions. But by and large, if you can trade a 7th rounder for a guy who could have a serious impact on your season, because the Browns went 0-2, 0-1-2. I don't know where the draw goes, and it doesn't matter. 2 losses, 1 draw, all by a field goal or less. If they have a reliable kicker who can just make 43-yarders, the Browns would have won all 3 preseason games. Now, I don't care about losses in the preseason because the offense and defense don't play all 4 quarters. The starters don't. But I do care when kickers miss kicks in preseason football because there is no difference between a 43-yarder in the preseason versus the regular season. But there is a difference about a run play in the preseason versus the regular season because Nick Chubb's not the one at the goal line in the preseason. But honestly, good on Andrew Berry for putting his pride, and I wouldn't say his ego, but swallowing his pride more or less and realizing, you know what? I had to go out and I had to make what was the best move for this team. And at the end of the day, he did not have a smashing 2022 draft class. We'll throw it on screen, Chipper. It's okay. Martin Emerson, good pick. Alex Wright, yeah. David Bell, yeah. Perrion Winfrey, Cade York, gone. Jerome Ford, too early to say. Michael Woods, unfortunately, ruptured Achilles. Isaiah Thomas, injured. Dawson Deaton, gone. Like, we're looking at how many names there? 9 names, and 3 of those names have already been waived before the start of 2023. Losing 33% of your draft class after 1 season is not the best managerial work by a GM, but it's better than holding on to Cade York and losing regular season games because you don't want to admit a mistake. And it's fair to say Cade York in round 4 was a mistake. I didn't hate the pick at the time because kickers are so important. And if you had to trade Justin Tucker right now, or if teams got to go back and redraft that year Justin Tucker went out, I bet there's a team that would take Justin Tucker in the first round. But for whatever reason, Tom Downey from Chat Sports is right. Drafting a kicker just doesn't work. There is a long list of skeletons of failed attempts of drafting a kicker. The Bucs took that Florida State guy, Roberto Aguero, whatever. Didn't work out. 1 year later, gone. Jake Moody, 3rd rounder from the team up north, struggling in the Bay Area already. He'll probably get 1 year like Cade York did, but if there's not a turnaround, there could be an issue there. And Cade York in the preseason, 4 of 8. I'm going to put him down as 4 of 10. He had 2 penalties wipe away missed field goals that should have been makes anyway. So in my eyes, he didn't go 50%. He went 40%. He did make every extra point, which he struggled with at times last year in the regular season, which you look at his 2022 stats now, 24 of 32, and that is a whopping 75 field goal percent. Part of me will always be in debt, I should say, emotionally to Cade York because of that picture. He won the Week 1 game against Baker Mayfield and the Panthers after the defense and Joe Woods tried to sabotage Cleveland's offense. So I'm always going to be thankful for Cade York for ending the curse of Week 1 losses for the Browns, taking down Baker in a big-time emotional game with all the eyes on the Browns. But after that, it was just downhill. Now, before we kind of wrap up today's show with some more thoughts I have, let me tell you guys about an awesome Browns hoodie that's 50% off. Now, it's late August. It's still hot outside, but you guys know that September is going to come, and then the leaves are going to start changing colors, and they're going to start falling. You're going to want to have an awesome Browns hoodie to wear. So get one now, 50% off, because if you decide in October to get one, it's not going to be 50% off anymore, and you'll be paying full price. So do future you a solid. Chatsports.com/CLE hoodie. I want to go back in time just to yesterday on a Zoom interview with Kevin Stefanski and the local reporters. He was asked point blank about Cade York starting Week 1. He said, "We always keep those internal as we get through this week, but I'll reiterate, I think Cade is very, very talented." Talented is a very loose term to use in the NFL because everyone's talented, right? They're in the National Football League. No one's in the NFL for not being talented. But I think Cade York might have a chance, and maybe I'm way off base here, of being added to the practice squad because they are in love with that distance and the leg and the power he has. And so maybe it's just not the right timing for a very young kicker to be kicking in a season where the Browns are all in, chips into the middle of the table. And maybe it's a year on the practice squad, and Dustin Hopkins is that, 4-iron that just gets them down the middle of the fairway. And maybe a Bubba Ventrone year-long special teams boot camp can straighten things out for Cade York. And then they bring him into training camp next year in a kicking battle, no doubt about it. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not crazy. I don't know. I have no idea how this is going to go over with the room. But I just want to put that out there as a remote possibility, because Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have said very glowing things about how much they like Cade York and he's super talented. But at the end of the day, they made a business decision. And that was, we cannot risk the 2023 season on a guy that went, in my eyes, 40% from field goal range in the preseason. So let me know, will the Browns regret giving up on Cade York? Part of the reason why I thought they might hold on to him, and I was wrong, I thought they were going to have him be their week 1 kicker because of the pride element for Andrew Berry, drafting him a year ago in the 4th round. And then Kevin Stefanski's time in Minnesota, where they gave up on Daniel Carlson after one bad game, and everyone, even the former Vikings GM, Rick Spielman, something like that, said that was my biggest mistake as the Vikings GM. He's been awesome with the Raiders ever since. Is that going to be the same here? Are we going to look back and go, oh no, we overreacted to one preseason? I think in the moment, if Cade York goes on to have an excellent career somewhere else, good for him and good for that team. But right now, on August 28th, with no hindsight, the Browns made the best decision for this upcoming season. And that was to get an accurate, reliable kicker who is not going to cost you games, which Cade York did 4 times in the preseason. So let's look over Dustin Hopkins' stats from last year before he was injured. He was 9 of 10, by the way, 90% field goal, 100% on extra points. So the accuracy is there for Dustin Hopkins. He doesn't have the crazy talented leg that Cade York has, but for the Browns, they don't need that right now. They need to have someone who can go on the field and not put a couple of people watching at home in Berea or Parma or Westlake on a stretcher in an ambulance with a heart attack because Cade York can't make a 43-yard field goal. Before we get on out of here, let's pick a card here as we are almost done with the offseason, 13 days. Chipper, what card would you like to go with?
I'm going to go, let's go 6 of diamonds.
6 of diamonds?
6 of diamonds.
And Allie, to wrap up every show in the Browns Report, we pick a random card. You got a 1 in 52 chance. Which card do you want to go with? So 7 of clubs, 6 of diamonds, you said? I'm going to go 3 of diamonds to remember Cade York, number 3. Okay. So close. 2 of diamonds. 2 of diamonds. Okay. That will do it for us on today's show. Cade York, done in Cleveland for now. Dustin Hopkins, the Kirkland version of D-Hop. Imagine if I told you back in June I guaranteed D-Hop to the Browns. What a spin zone this would have been if that would have been Dustin Hopkins and not DeAndre Hopkins. But that is the news. Like the video if you enjoyed our content today. Consider subscribing if you have not already. And we will see everyone tomorrow for roster cutdown day. Grade the trade and then the cut. All the moves, right? Trade plus the cut. What letter grade would you give it? An A, B, C, D, or F? We have a little over 600 people watching right now. Give me your letter grade. Cool Guy Called Zone, give me a B+. I've got Soul Train with a B. Gregory with a B. I'm a little surprised I'm not getting any A's. I thought this would be more of a slam dunk A in my eyes. Piz Pick, good to see you in the chat, dude. An A. Sweet Diva says A. Max, I tossed the boxing glove from the watch party in the mail today, or it's going to get shipped out today, so keep your head on a swivel. Rick Stanfield, what's going on, dude? B. Mr. Durst says B. Larry with a B. Greasy Flight with B. Tim with B. A lot of Bs. I guess, Dustin Hopkins isn't going to be some Hall of Fame kicker, so it's not like it's a big needle mover. But 85 field goal percentage, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. Joshua Miller with a $2 super. Would Cade York get stolen off the practice squad? Potentially. If another team had their kicker get injured, maybe that would be one of the first places they'd look. But for another GM, and I know the Browns are not laughing at Cade York because they're the ones that drafted Cade York, but for the rest of the league, they are laughing at the Browns. They're like, you used a 4th-round pick on a kicker who went 50% in field goals during the preseason? We don't want that. Why would I want to be attached to that? Like, that is almost GM suicide if you were to add a kicker that has been awful in the NFL so far. Now, if it works out, you're a genius, right? You're like, hey, the Browns, they didn't give him enough confidence. We know what buttons to push to have good kickers, and we are going to steal what is going to be a franchise legend for us at the kicker position. And good for them if it works out. I don't think any team is running to get Cade York, though, Josh. Tyler Becker with a $5 super chat. If we keep getting super chats, by the way, we get to keep the studio space. And we took over a coveted studio, Studio B, one of the the big baller studios at Chat Sports. So if you like the show and you want to keep it rolling, super chats, keep the lights on. But Tyler Becker, watch Cade go become the next Daniel Carlson. Either way, Browns had to do something, so I agree with the move, but everyone gets better after leaving. Tyler, that's pretty much almost word for word what I kind of said, which maybe Cade York goes on to have a phenomenal career somewhere else, and it's a big-time mistake by Cleveland. There have been a lot of kickers, like it's not just Daniel Carlson, that teams gave up on too early, and they go on to have a great career elsewhere. But for the Browns, could you imagine going into the season with a ticking time bomb called Cade York and having it explode week 2 Monday Night Football against the Steelers, losing the game because of that? You just can't take that risk. You just cannot take that risk. Joshua Miller with another $2 super chat. Andrew Berry better at free agency than the draft? Josh, great question. Andrew Berry has had 2 first-round draft picks, right? Jed Wills and Greg Newsome. Didn't have one in 2022. Didn't have one in 2023. Didn't have a second-round pick in 2022 or 2023. So for the coveted picks, they haven't been huge, smashing like home runs, no doubters in Jed Wills and Greg Newsome. If you could redo the Jed Wills pick, you'd probably go with Tristan Wirfs. If you could redo the Greg Newsome pick, there wasn't some insane talent that went right after him. So sure, there's always going to be guys that slip into the second round that could have gone in the first round in hindsight. But I would tend to agree that Andrew Berry has probably made better moves in free agency than he had so far in the draft. He hasn't had awesome draft picks to work with, and that's through his own doing to get Deshaun Watson. So I don't think Andrew Berry has proven to be a master drafter so far, but he has so far nailed the 2023 draft class, which is insanely early to say, but Cedric Tillman has looked legit. Siaka Ika is going to be, a longer-term development in my eyes. DeJuan Jones, if they redo the draft, he might go at the end of round 1. That's an overreaction, but he could look like a starting right tackle for a team. So Cam Mitchell, Dorian Thompson-Robinson in round 5. So far, the 2023 draft class is shaping up to be Andrew Berry's best, despite not having a first or a second-round pick. Make sure to subscribe. If we get some more super chats, we can keep the show afloat. Otherwise, we've got a lot of work to get done here at Chat Sports, so I don't want to hold up Chipper and Allie for too long. But super chats definitely go a long way to support the show. So if you want to go above and beyond, more than just subscribing, liking, commenting, you guys know the spiel by now. Super chats are always greatly appreciated. All right, let me give some shout-outs in the meantime. Otherwise, we will pack things up. Tim Green, we lost 4 games last year by 3 points or less. York missed a field goal in all those games. That is kind of the story. Yep. Tanner, rather have Dicker the kicker. Well, yeah, the Chargers weren't going to give up Dicker the kicker, though, right? That's not how it works, unfortunately. Ty Man, the Buckeyes here. What's going on, dude? Cade literally kicked himself out of a job. Before we started the stream, Chipper asked me, if Cade York makes that 43-yarder and walk off against the Chiefs, is he out of a job today? I don't think he is. I think if Cade York makes that kick, we all go into the season thinking, all right, there was some choppy waves. But at the end, when it mattered most, pressured situation, 2-minute drill, get into field goal range, and make a very makeable kick, he got the job done. We can buy in on that. We can rally around that moment. But he didn't. It was a 43-yarder that was low and that was tipped. And honestly, it looked bad coming off the foot. And that was probably the nail in the coffin. Like, you got to envision Andrew Berry walked out of Arrowhead Stadium, took out his phone, and searched on Spotrac free agent kickers. Because it was brutal. Literally, I sat down at work today. Chase Sr. sits right next to me. Does a great job at Chat Sports, running a lot of content. He's like, Cade York, did he ever have a pressured kick in the Browns-Chiefs game? I didn't get to see it. And I was like, you don't know? He's like, what? And I was like, 43-yarder. He goes, he made it? And I go, oh, no. Are you sitting down? He missed it. It was tough. It was bad. All right. That is going to do it for us on today's show. If we'll put a timer on. If we get Super Chat in the next 60 seconds, we will keep the show afloat. Otherwise, we will sign off and let everyone enjoy the rest of their Monday afternoons. Kimberly Hurst in the chat. Where are we in the chat right now? We are all over this. We're talking about Sean Watson being the same age as Patrick Mahomes. I don't quite know how we got to that stage of this conversation. Yep. We got Robert Bruce in the chat. What's going on, Robert? Amazon is hiring Cade York. Not if they want their packages to be delivered accurately. Joshua Miller should have traded for Isaiah Simmons. For what it costs, yeah, it would have been a lot of fun, especially with the linebacker position, not having, is there anyone in the linebacker room that we can definitively say will get another contract with the Browns? No. JOK would probably make the most sense, but still, I can't even rally around a guy that has had injuries, IR stints in the first 2 years of his career. Kia Adams, yes. Can't wait till next year for Miranda. Okay, well, Levi Mayfield's here. Duke asking if it's going to be a practice squad candidate. Levi's at work welding. I thought you were at a wedding right now. I was like, Levi, what kind of cheapo wedding Monday are you going to? Levi, focus on the welding, because I don't know how welding works all that well, but if you make a mistake, that seems like it could be painful. So that will do it for us on this live show, kind of an impromptu live. If you guys enjoyed the nature of it, it wasn't something we do very often here, but listen, when Cade York gets cut and the Browns trade for Dustin Hopkins, yeah, we are going to go live on the channel. So make sure you subscribe. That way you do not miss a thing when it comes to the Cleveland Browns all 2023 season long. If you just joined the live, we're going to put out a video in a few short minutes that kind of breaks down everything you need to know about Dustin Hopkins, his stats, his highlights, all that good stuff, and, of course, the Cade York release news. But we will let you guys go and enjoy the rest of your Monday, whether you're welding, whether you're planting. I don't know what you're doing at your work right now. But shout out to everyone who's quietly got this up on a window tab at their office and just going to exit out the moment their boss walks by. We've all been there. All right, I will let you guys go. Go Browns. Dustin Hopkins, don't screw it up.